Hi, I'm Melissa Burkhart, and I'm here today to speak to you about behavior basics, the power of positive reinforcement, one of my favorite topics. I am a board certified behavior analyst, also an early start Denver model certified therapist, and an ESDM, early start Denver model certified parent coach. All behavior is communication. You may have heard this one before, but I just want to drive it home that regardless of what your child is doing, whether it be a challenging behavior that you don't want, such as grabbing or hitting, or behaviors that you want to increase, like using your words, playing appropriately with their friends, all that is considered to be behavior, whether it's challenging behavior or behavior we want to increase. So when we talk about behavior today, I'll let you know if we're talking about challenging behavior or behaviors we want to increase. But regardless, all behavior that your child exhibits is communication. Maybe it's letting you know your child's missing some skills, such as being able to use their words and sounds to request. Maybe it's letting you know that your child is tired or hungry. Or maybe the behaviors such as pointing or using their words, those are things showing that your child is learning how to use more appropriate behaviors. But all behavior tells us something about the child and the child's needs, what they might need to be taught, and their progress. We all want children to use their most highest level of communication that they're capable of in the moment. So some children can use their words and talk. We want them to be able to use that as often as possible and as appropriately as possible. You might have a child who's just beginning to even make some sound. They're an early learner, and maybe their mode of communication might be pointing or gesturing. We want to help them use their highest level that they're capable of communication wise and help them move to the next level instead of using challenging behaviors to communicate their needs and wants. This little guy is using his gestures. His mom's right on his level, supporting his communication, trying to understand his message so that she can reward him for trying to communicate. So he'll be more likely to try to communicate again. We're going to delve a little bit into the functions of behavior. There's a lot more information about the functions of behavior that you can learn from different resources. At the end, I have references, and I refer to the Ruby Parent Training Program that can teach you a lot about the functions of the behavior and strategies to help with challenging behaviors. We're digging into the surface of applied behavior analysis, which helps us look at behavior in a more objective way to come up with interventions and strategies to teach your child that will be the most effective the most quickly. So to boil down the functions of the behavior, some of the most basic functions of the behavior of a child's behavior is to get away from something, to avoid or escape, or to get something they want. It might be to get your attention, to get a toy, to get something, another child to play with them, or to get away from brushing their teeth, or the dentist, or having to sit at a table, or avoiding these things. Children might engage in challenging behaviors to get what they want or to get something, or they might engage in behaviors we want them to do more of, those positive behaviors that we want to see more of, to get away from something or to get something. This is the learning chain, the antecedent behavior and consequence. This is how children learn a lot of things. They can learn to do challenging behaviors from this learning chain. They can learn how to do new behaviors we want them to do more of from this learning chain. So to simplify it, you think about antecedent, ante comes before. Your behavior can be, we might be talking about a challenging behavior we want to decrease or replace with something else, and it might be talking about a behavior we want to increase and see a child do more of. The consequence simply means whatever comes right after the behavior. Sometimes we hear consequence and we think about like punishment, or consequence can either be something that reinforces the behavior so it's more likely to happen again, or can be something that makes it less likely the behavior happens again. So let's take an example and break it down. Let's say you have an early learner and you have a child that's learning how to request things, and the child's snack is on the counter. Let's say the child sees the snack and begins to cry or fall down on the ground and have, cry or tantrum. And maybe the mom says, no, it's not time for snack. You can have snack after lunch. And the child continues to cry. And then the mom says, here, you can have your cookies. Stop crying, please. Well, the antecedent was seeing those cookies on the shelf. The behavior was crying. The consequence was the mom ended up giving the child the cookie. Well, whatever happens right after a behavior can make it a lot more likely the behavior will happen again. So this child cried. Next time the child's going to be a lot more likely to cry to get the cookie again. What if the child saw the cookie and before the child started even crying, the parent helped the child point? Maybe that's something the child's being taught, helping the child do the behavior. The consequence was mommy would have immediately made sure the child got what the child wanted in the moment, the function of the behavior, and the child's more likely to point again in the future. So the antecedent behavior and consequence is a chain, and we start to think about it this way. What is happening after this behavior every single time a challenging behavior? Oh, I'm letting them escape or leave, or I'm giving them something that they're crying for. We're going to talk more about how to change the chain of challenging behaviors and turn it into behaviors we want to see more of. So there's lots of things we can do that antecedent A to make it more likely that the child's going to do the behaviors we want them to do. So we're going to make it more likely. This child is saying, please set me up for success, please. It takes a little time and effort to think about the challenging behaviors you're seeing, and then thinking about what can I do ahead of time to make it less likely or more likely they'll do what I want them to do, or less likely they'll do what I don't want them to do. But taking some time to think about it can set up your child for success. So for example, if your child sees the iPad and cries when they see it because they want it, something you can do that's so simple is put things out of sight. That's not a choice for the child at the moment. For yourself, you might put the cookies away and have healthy choices out in view, so you'll be more likely to make the right choice. Sometimes, let's say you always take your child to the grocery store at 11 o'clock. That's just your routine. It might be right before the child's nap. You might want to think about that. And you go and do your whole Walmart trip and your child's exhausted and crying. So your child's beginning to associate the grocery store with, I don't like this, and they start crying right away. How can you change that chain? Well, maybe you could shorten your excursion. Go when your child's fresh, go get 2 or 3 items, and then leave. You made it shorter, and then maybe next time you can do it, add a little more time and a little more time. So just shortening the time that you do things can help set the child up for success. Always asking yourself, is my child well fed? Is my child rested? Are there any other extenuating circumstances that will make something harder for my child? And can I make sure they're well fed and rested? And this dad looks like he needs to be fed and needs some rest as well. Doing the same for yourself, setting yourself up for success and making sure you have those basic needs met. That helps a child have less challenging behaviors. Does your child know what to expect? Children with autism love routine. If you change their routine, it's often very hard on them. So thinking about if you're picking your child up from school, and usually you just go home, but today it's different, you're going to go get a haircut, or you're going to go pick up Sissy from soccer and then go to the grocery store. You want to prepare your child for that. So you might even tell them at the beginning before you drop them off at school. You also, when you pick them up, it can be as simple as having a picture of soccer and a picture you took of the grocery store, just going and taking pictures of all the places you go, and then showing your child, hey, look, we're going to go pick up Sissy at soccer, and then we're going to the grocery store, showing the child the pictures so they know what to expect. It doesn't always have to be a perfectly laminated, printed out chart like this. You can draw something if something's going to be different with your day, or take pictures of it. And then explaining to your child how things are going to be different will make it a lot less likely that you're going to have challenging behaviors, and a lot more likely your child's going to handle the transition and what's different with their day. Also telling expectations. You're going to sit in the back with Sissy and you can have one snack in the car. In the grocery, you're going to sit in your cart. You're going to help mommy find apples and cereal, and then we're going to go home. And expect developmental testing. Young children, it's their job to push limits, to see how far, where is the boundary. It's what they do to become a well-rounded, developed person. So expect the developmental testing, and if your child is older but they're developmentally younger, you're going to be going through those stages a little bit later. But instead of the terrible twos, the terrific twos, they're pushing to see, hey, what's the limit here? And you being the calm, assertive, consistent boundary that they need, and acknowledging their feelings, like, oh, you really wanted that, that must be hard, but you can't have it right now. And staying calm can carry you so far with your child trusting you, knowing that they're safe with the limits you set with them, and just not taking it personally when your child screams in your face, because that's where they might be developmentally, but not allowing it. No, you can't. I don't like it when you scream at me, and just walking away if need be, or giving the child the words they don't have. I want my pacifier. Okay, I'll get your pacifier, but helping them do something appropriate before they get it, a point, or just quieting down a little bit. I'm going to talk now about punishment. And when we think about the chain of antecedent behavior consequence, to see the consequence is what happens right after a behavior. And sometimes punishment happens right after a behavior and a challenging behavior, and it might decrease the behavior that you don't want. But there's a problem with punishment. If punishment's the only tool in your tool chest, and you don't use a lot of the other tools we're talking about and we'll be talking about, then you might get stuck in a trap like this rat. Punishment feels good to the punisher because it is effective right there in the moment. It's usually immediately effective. The problem is it works so well, the parent's like, hey, that worked great, and they use it again and again. So for example, the cycle of yelling, you might start off raising your voice at your child. For example, your child's jumping on the sofa, and you tell them, hey, stop jumping on the sofa. Stop jumping on the sofa. You become the broken record. The child ignores you. You're escalating, you're getting angrier and angrier inside, kind of talking to yourself like, I can't believe they won't listen to me. Finally, you reach a peak. You might walk up to your child, pull them roughly off the sofa and say, or yell, I said stop jumping off the sofa. And the child stops, doesn't go back for a little bit. And you're like, that worked. You might not feel good about the way you reacted. Instead of that, thinking about punishing doesn't teach anything. It just stops a behavior. So instead, thinking about, what can I do to teach the child or give them to do instead? I see you want to jump right now. You can jump on the little trampoline inside. You can hold my hands and jump, but you may not jump on the sofa. Where can you jump? Teaching the child. Going back and teaching. And if they keep doing it, setting that boundary, you may not jump on the sofa and just taking them off again. More punishment, if you yell, it's going to take a louder yelling next time for it to work. Punishment leads to depression and aggression and possible abuse. Sometimes punishment a little bit, such as timeout, making a behavior less likely to happen again, paired with positive reinforcing and teaching, can change a behavior. But if it's the only tool in your tool chest, I hope we can give you some more tools. The human mind is wired to notice the negative. If you think about, we're wired to look around and scan, is there a bear about to attack me from long ago? Your brain is wired to scan the environment and see what's wrong to protect ourselves. But this serves to actually can increase some of the behaviors we don't want to see in children, because we end up paying a lot of attention to behaviors that we don't want to see. So let's say you're in the kitchen cooking and your two kids are playing together quietly in the other room. It's not your natural inclination to get up and go comment to them, look at you boys playing so well together. You're really growing up. You're sharing a toy, and the big brother, you look how kind you are. You just handed him, the instrument to play with. We usually don't do that. But if you're in the room, in the kitchen, and you hear them yelling or crying, or he took my toy, you're going to get up and, of course, run in there and give it lots of attention. Like, oh, you boys, you need to share. So thinking about whatever we attend to, we're going to get more of. So it's kind of a switch in our brain. We're wired to notice the negative. Can we change the switch so that we can start noticing the positive and what we want to see more of? So it's kind of an intentional, mindful switch we have to do. Something you might do to help you be more mindful with your monitoring. You can set a timer to help you intentionally get up and praise the behavior you want more of. Some people move a plant around the house or a picture that they're like, you see it, out of the corner of your eye and go, why is that there? Oh, that's to remind me to notice the good. And then saying something, noticing the positive. We're going to talk about kind of some specific ways to do it. And I wonder what other ideas you might have to be mindful about noticing the positive, because you're going to get more of that behavior. You get more of what you focus on. If you focus on the behaviors you want to increase, instead of some, I call them, junk behaviors. Dr. Latham, who's in my references, I really like that term. It's just a junk behavior. It's not worth even paying attention to. You can, as a parent, you might think that, or as a teacher, preschool teacher, it's not worth paying attention to that. But the minute they do something right, giving it lots of attention. So what you focus on, you're going to get more of. We're going to talk now about some more antecedents, something you can do ahead of time, the A, to make it more likely the child's going to engage in the behaviors you want, and less likely to engage in behaviors you don't want. And then so you can apply the consequence of praise after they do it, which we'll talk about. So effective instructions, tell me, is this an effective instruction? The child's across the room and you're saying, go get your shoes on, John. Hey, John, go get your shoes on. Go get your shoes on. Go get your shoes on. They're not listening to you. They're totally into whatever they're doing. They're magnetiles or playing, and they're not paying attention to you. If it's an important direction that you want them to do right away, which is usually something you want, approach the child. Shorten the distance between you and your child will make it more likely the child follows your instructions. If at all possible, get on the child's level, eye to eye. Use a calm, assertive voice. Saying, oh, do you want to put your shoes on now? Well, that's a question. And you're asking the child versus a calm, assertive voice. It's time to go put on your shoes right over there. Your shoes are by the door. Go and do it now. If they don't do it, you can take their hand, walk with them, help them follow through. Say exactly what you want the child to do and model. Instead of saying, get ready to go, they may not know what all that entails. Tell them exactly what to do. Go and get your shoes and put them on your feet and get your booksack on your back. You can even use some gestures to model. That will make it much more like, and please, saying please, it actually increases the chance, research shows, that a child will do what you want them to do. Ask yourself, what do I want my child to do? Instead of not what I don't want. So if you want your child to sit and wait, telling your child specifically what to do. Sit in the chair with your hands in your lap like this. And this little boy's so proud. He did it. He was able to follow the direction and he's waiting. And mom would say, way to go, you did it. You sat down the first time I asked you. You're really growing up. Sometimes kids have a skill deficit versus an intentional problem behavior. Some children need a lot of help learning how to self-regulate those big emotions. All little children do. It's a child's job to learn how to regulate their emotions in their bodies. Some children need to learn how to wait. It's a skill deficit, or accepting no, or tolerating demands. And we're going to talk about how to teach waiting and how to teach a child to accept no. So the positive opposite is a great term to think about when a child's engaging in a behavior. So usually if we see a child running around the pool or running when they're not supposed to, we usually, a lot of your first reaction might be, stop running, stop running. The challenge with that is that developmentally, children hear the last thing you said. So they're hearing running, running, running. And look at his face. He's like, got it, Mom, I'm running. And mom's yelling, stop running. And no one's getting anywhere. The child's not doing what the adult wants. The child doesn't even realize it. And the adult doesn't realize I'm not giving a clear instruction to my child. This little girl is yelling. She looks like she's having some big emotions. She probably needs some help learning how to calm and regulate and express her emotions. So mom can say, you seem really angry. Use a quiet voice, with the parent using a regulating down, calming themselves down, using a quiet voice themselves, telling child what they want the child to do. Instead of stop yelling, yelling above the child's yelling, just escalates. Parent self-regulating, then telling the child what they want them to do. So praise, we're now going to talk about a consequence, what happens after a behavior. Praise is a tool, just like we talked about punishment being a tool that we don't want to use much because it really doesn't change behavior in the future. Praise can teach a new behavior and make it much more likely the child's going to engage in the behavior. And we also can stick in the word reinforcement, positive reinforcement. Praise is one type of reinforcement. So you're going to look for one or two behaviors you want to increase that the child's capable of. So for a young learner, it might be taking turns with a toy. You might look for the behavior. Does the child ever take a turn with a toy? Or it might be the child using a sound to request or a word. Does the child ever do this? If they do, make sure that you reinforce that. Make sure they get what they ask for. Make sure that you do it quickly and help them do the behavior again. Will make it more likely. If the child doesn't usually ask for things they want, you can set it up. You might have their favorite snack or their favorite toy up out of reach. You're setting it up. The child might go and look at the toy. Maybe you're working on a point. You help the child point to the toy and you immediately let the child have the toy. You're setting it up. So you work on the child pointing and using a sound to get what they want. So you help the child, you practice it. And you're going to reserve this special praise and this special reinforcement for these type of behaviors. We have everyday praise, like, way to go, Johnny. Thank you so much for bringing me my glass that I left on the counter. I appreciate that. Or just thank you for cleaning up the dishes or putting that in the trash. If that's a behavior they do all the time. If it's something brand new that we've chosen to target, we're going to make sure we pull out the special praise. Special praise just makes it more likely the child will do it again. So we want to make the difference when we pull out the special praise and the special reinforcement versus your everyday praise. Effective special reinforcement is immediate. So immediately after you either set it up and help the child do the new behavior, or immediately after they do a behavior you want to increase, we want to follow it, the behavior, with the reinforcement. So it needs to be immediate, specific. If they were reaching for, if they wanted the bubbles and they pointed at it and said, "Bah," we want to immediately get the bubbles out fast and blow the bubbles. And way to go, you did it, you said bubbles. Maybe a little touch, a tickle, over the top enthusiastic. Or if your child's learning how to put their clothes in the hamper, you would be clear with your direction, put your clothes, your dirty clothes, in the hamper. Maybe they don't understand that. You would help them do it. We're putting the dirty clothes in the hamper, and the minute they do it, yay, you put the dirty clothes in the hamper. Way to go. Touch, high five, tickle, eye contact, over the top enthusiastic. Like, you feel silly doing it almost. Children really react. A lot of kids with autism really react. A big AFET, big smile. You did it. Mark that behavior. Anchor the behavior you want. They look at you. You want to increase that. That's one of your behaviors. Anchor it. You looked right at me. I see you. And some tickles. Really work on going over the top with your praise for those behaviors you want to increase. Praise is a form of coaching. When the child does a behavior that you want to see more of, you did it. You put the paper in the trash. That was so helpful. You're really growing up. Telling the child what they did is coaching. They're more likely to do it again if they know what they did correct instead of good job, good job. They don't know what they did a good job for. So be specific. Shaping. Shaping is just one of my favorite ways to get new behaviors going. And shaping is baby steps and celebrating the baby steps. Childhood is full of shaping opportunities, and you use this already, but now you're going to think about mindfully using it. So we start where the child is. We don't want to go too far. We don't want to move too fast, because then you're going to get pushed back and less progress. So you're going to reserve that special praise and reinforcement. So let's say your child has a challenging time or has challenging behaviors around new foods. Maybe you even put a new food on the counter that you're not even putting on the child's plate, and they cry about it or scream or tantrum. They go into fear, fight or flight when they see the new food. They've had experiences. Maybe they have a strong reaction to taste. So you think about, well, if they don't get upset when I have the food, maybe on the sister's plate, you might just start with some new foods on the sister's plate, and then moving the food a little bit closer over time, closer to the child. We're talking about over days. Once they're tolerating the food just being next to them, it might be the next shaping step might be touch the new food. So it might be picking up the food and putting it in the yucky bowl. At least now they're touching the new food. And celebrating that and practicing lots of different foods, and say that specific praise. And maybe some really special reinforcement right if they do it. Let them have one of their favorite Cheetos. The next step, the next shaping step might be to kiss a new food. Kiss it and put it in the yucky bowl. The next step, after you do that over maybe a week, depending on how sensitive your child is, then lick the new food. Then it might then progress to bite the new food. Little bitty baby steps. If you think about over time, in a year's time, if you do tiny little baby steps over a year, you might have that much progress. Maybe your child's be eating 3 new foods or 4 new foods or 5 new foods, instead of pushing it like, oh, you're going to eat this food. I'm putting it on your plate. I don't care if you cry. You're going to have pushback, and probably not have much progress. Another shaping step would be children who have a hard time sitting to attend. Let's say they can sit for 10 seconds. That's your baseline. That's where they are. Your goal would be the next tiny step, maybe for homework. They won't sit for more than 5 minutes. Your goal might be 7 minutes. This is over days, weeks, months, cleaning up one toy up to all their toys. Maybe your child has a hard time waiting. You have their toy, or it's, and they're crying for it and they don't know. And you're like, wait, just wait a second. I have to get it ready. And they're crying and crying, teaching waiting. So if they're not waiting at all, it might be wait. There you go. You can have it now. You waited. Thank you for waiting. Now you can have it. And then 2 seconds. Wait. Oh, you're really growing up. Look at you. You waited. Now you can have your toy. And then increase it to 3 seconds, 5 seconds, etc. Baby steps. I highly recommend thinking about using them intentionally. And if you get pushback, crying, saying no, maybe you went forward too fast. We get excited about the momentum. Oh, this is working. Now I'm going to push it and I'm going to ask them to, eat the whole new food. And you get pushback and crying and you end up having to go 3 steps back. You're better off taking those little baby steps than doing that. You'll make more progress. Replacement behaviors. Let's say your child has a behavior you want to change. You've picked a behavior that you want to increase. So whenever we have a replacement behavior, whenever we're decreasing a behavior we don't want, we want to replace it with a behavior that serves the same function. It gets the same thing for the child. So looking at the behavior chain, what do you think the function is of this behavior? So let's say a child might cry when they see the sister has a toy. Let's do this one. Sister has a toy, the child grabs it. The function of the behavior is to get what they want, right? It's important to figure out the function. Child sees the toy, antecedent, child grabs toy, they get the toy. They're going to keep on grabbing the toy, right? So ask yourself, what do I want the child to do? What's the positive opposite of grabbing? That would be pointing or saying, my turn, or having their hand out instead of grabbing. So you might have the sister have a toy the child likes, maybe not the most favorite toy. Help the child walk up to the sister. Hopefully the sister's a little older and will cooperate, and help the child do the replacement behavior. If the child's not talking yet, it might be a gesture, or it might be my turn, holding out their hand. Help the child do the behavior and help the sibling immediately give it to them so they have the reinforcement immediately following this new behavior. The new behavior of like my turn or give me, whatever the replacement behavior is that you're teaching has to work faster and be easier to use than the challenging behavior. So if they go and it's faster to grab the toy from the sister and they always get to keep the toy after they grab it from the sister, they're going to keep doing that. We don't want the old behavior to work anymore. So if you're teaching the child to point or request when they see something, a cookie or something, and they used to cry and they'd get the cookie, now when they cry, we got to make sure that old behavior doesn't work anymore. And we got to try to help them do the new behavior before they get to the cry. So helping them point or reach or say cookie before they get to the cry. It's really important to keep in mind that pairing, or we could even call it bonding with your child, should be an important part of your interactions. So taking time to sit down, having a shared agenda. What's the child doing that they're interested in? Can I join in and share it with the child? Making it fun, lots of sound effects so that your child is drawn to you, sees you as positive instead of wanting to escape from you, can increase them following directions and your positive interactions and their language. We want to instruct less. Don't give as many instructions. Don't ask questions that your child's ignoring you, and follow through more. So 75% of noticing the positive, talking about the positive interactions, and 25% instructions layered in leads to a much more positive relationship and less challenging behaviors. You want to think about your environment. Can you set it up for success? Can you put some of their favorite things, have some communication temptations up, their favorite toys, their cars in a clear container, and you're working on pointing or requesting, and the child is looking and reaching, helping them point, helping them say, cars, and then giving them the car. You set up a learning opportunity and reinforcing, making sure when they do ask that they get what they want and that positive praise. Layer in easy instructions. Let's say you have your child's sippy cup and usually just hand the cup to the child. Instead, anytime you have something in your hand that the child wants, it's an opportunity to practice that following directions, which is really important, or having the child request. So it might be sit down, sit on the floor, legs crossed. They do it, you immediately, reinforcement has to be immediate. Immediately give them the cup and let them have it, and way to go, you asked for your sippy cup, here it is. Anytime you have something they want, we want to layer in as many learning opportunities throughout the day, following directions, requesting, playing, taking turns. Praise is just one tool to build a house. We've talked about a few different tools today, but if your child has autism or developmental delays, learning issues, or challenging behaviors, you may want to contact a board-certified behavior analyst to support you in helping you with your child. I love this quote. There needs to be a lot more emphasis on what a child can do instead of what he cannot do. Dr. Temple Grandin, focusing on the positive, what can they do? References, Everyday Parenting Toolkit, Dr. Kasten, The Power of Positive Parenting, a fantastic book. Ruby, Parent Training for Disruptive Behaviors, all wonderful references and resources. If you go to my website, earlystartautism.com, I have a lot of references. This website will be, webinar will be posted there, as well as other webinars I've done, and just good information for parents and anyone who works with children with autism. My contact information, Melissa at earlystartautism.com. You can also go to earlystartautism.com and contact me through there. Early Start Autism, at Early Start Autism, we offer parent coaching through telemedicine and in person. So specifically coaching you on strategies to help your child learn in everyday opportunities. Also equipping you with tools to deal with challenging behaviors. We also offer one-on-one intensive therapy. We take various modes of insurance and other ways of being paid through different scholarships. We have a parent coaching scholarship with the Unicorn Children's Foundation. You can apply at unicornchildrensfoundation.org/ESTM to apply for the Early Start Denver Model Parent Coaching, where you will learn all these strategies. Early Start Autism offers applied behavior analysis that is developmental, based on the most recent research about learning, and it's compassionate to the child and respectful of the child. The Early Start Denver model is one of the curriculums and methods we use, which is behavioral and developmental. If you'd like to learn more, please feel free to reach out. And thank you for your time today.